Welcome to the Church Sound Podcast, where kingdom culture, real life, and technology intersect. I'm your host, Prentice Thompson, along with the pastor, Caleb Winley. We're here to help you get through Sunday. Did you hear the pastor? What about your live streams, social media? We provide solid solutions for all of your multimedia needs. Let's learn something today. Let's go. Yes. Welcome to another edition of the Church Sound Podcast. I'm your humble host, Mr. Prentice Thompson, along with the good pastor,
Pastor Caleb Winley. Guys, how you doing out there tonight, today, wherever you at? How you doing?
Yes. And welcome to episode number 70. 70.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I got my car, I'm 70 now,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got
the battery operated car.
I smell like methadone. I smell like I smell.
Oh, that's horrible.
I smell like alcohol and toes right now. I'm 70.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Your teeth moving around in your mouth, man. I don't know.
I'm doing good. My knees hurt. Everything hurt. Everything hurts.
That's 70.
Everything hurts, man. I got my bag. I got my bag of good stuff over here that I got from the dispensary. I'm good.
Yes. Absolutely.
Welcome to episode number 70.
Yeah.
We're so glad to have you guys aboard. We had a great time last week. I hope you had a great time as well. Yeah. Today we have a special guest, and we're doing our series. We have a manufacturer in the house, and what do we call it, Caleb?
Let's Talk Church.
Let's Talk Church with DPA Microphones today. And I want to let our good pastor introduce our short introduction, probably. Right?
Okay.
Short introduction from our fine guest from DPA.
So I've been given this long list of this brother's bio, and I'm going to have to try to chop it down to very small points because, we only have a little bit of time here. So I'm going to introduce to you, this is a joke, I want to introduce you to you, the VP of Sales Marketing at DPA. Some of you may not know what DPA, but after today, you will absolutely know what DPA. I'd like to introduce you to Christopher Spahr. Hey, did I get that right?
Spahr, but it's close enough.
Spahr, like sparring.
Like sparring,
okay.
Exactly.
There you go, okay.
Close enough. I've been called everything, so it's all right.
That's not good.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
I got one question. How come you waited till 70 to call me? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
We had to make sure we had our thing intact.
I appreciate that.
We had to make sure we had enough followers. And,
you didn't want to be here at one.
You want to be here with 3 people.
I love
5 people are listening. We have a pretty good following now, and things are moving forward. And I was like, who else can I call that I haven't called when I turn 70? It will be Christopher Spahr.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I say,
oh man,
it's time.
I do feel like I'm 70, by the way, so that's appropriate. That's all right.
The song my grandpa called your grandpa keeps ringing through my head. I don't know why.
Exactly.
Well, welcome to the Church Sound Podcast, sir. So glad to have you.
Yes.
Before we get started, let's pay some bills. Let's talk about our sponsor, Metro Podcast Studio, the hottest podcast studio in New York City. Those of you who are looking for a podcast space to record your podcast in a professional manner, beautiful location, audio recording, video streaming, post-production, anything you need for your podcast to be completely amazing, hit them up. MetroPodcastStudio.com. That's MetroPodcastStudio.com for all of your podcasting needs. But for all of our guests and our new people, we do this thing called Sunday School. And with Sunday School is the funny things that we find in church that are hilarious to us and to those who are in the outer skirts. Whatever, So let's get ready for Sunday School. And our good and our messenger for the moment is the good pastor.
That'd be me. Yes. Come on. So, of course, as you know how we do, we got 3 points. And so my first point is, this is the church.
This is the church.
This is the church. My second point, I feel like I'm moving kind of fast. And my second point is, what you talking about?
What you talking about?
What you talking about?
This is the church.
This is the church is one. And
man, I can pull a lot of things out of that. Go ahead.
Man, I know, bro. And the third point is coffee or tea.
Coffee or tea? I go coffee or tea. Earl Grey, coffee or tea. So we got, this is the church. What you talking about?
The church.
Coffee or tea?
Talking about on coffee or tea. So
okay, so Christopher, all right. Which one do you feel in?
This is the church.
Okay.
This is the church for $44.99.
Ah, awesome. So happy that you guys would pick This is the church. So when we installed, and I'm going to talk about our ministry. When we installed our new panel, our lights, our new sound system into our building, we decided that this was a prime opportunity to have a youth concert. So we go into our church and we figured we got all the flashing lights and everything is working wonderful. And then nothing has been tested, really. Zero. Nothing has been tested, bro. Like, so absolutely whatever could go wrong can go wrong.
This sounds like a bad thing already.
Yeah. So now this particular event, the room is packed. Bro, when I said there was so many youths there, it was youth on top of youth. And so we got to the point where the media team was pretty much running it. And so we got to the point where it was time to take offering. Now there's, I'm not gonna reveal him because he's a very great young man in our ministry who has moved up to the upper echelons of pastor, and I'm not going to mention his name, but when he first came to the church, he was this rough brother. Like, you ever see those guys that come straight out of prison and come into church? And you could tell they came straight out of prison and came into church.
They came from somewhere.
Right. They still got some of that lingo with them. Yeah, exactly. They still got all that roughness. Well, this brother was kind of that guy.
He was edgy.
And so my media team had this incredible idea that during taking offering, they were going to do a skit to break it up, just to kind of warm up the room. Remember, this room has not been tested. The lights are working.
How is that even possible?
Bro. So they tell me, but they don't tell me, right?
Okay.
Because they want to surprise me, so
it was a surprise. It was a surprise.
So everybody goes around and they walk around and they get, they're giving their offering. And this time we tell everybody, just go to the front and then put it in a basket and then come up. So as two of the media, I'm not going to reveal them, two of the media guys are coming up the middle aisle after they've given their offering. He goes, "Hey, that's my sneaker." And the other one goes, "What? I didn't step on your sneaker." Now this is nobody knows. Nobody knows what's happening. And all of a sudden they start grabbing on each other. Oh, what's happening? And then the brother who's now a usher right out of prison runs over to them. No, my brother, y'all gotta stop. This is the church. This is the church. We don't do this in the church. No. Not in the church. Y'all won't take this out to the street. We can do this. And I'll buy, I'll make sure that happens. But this is the church. When I tell you, we cleared the room. We cleared the room, bro. And then as everybody was walking out, we bust out laughing because we knew we was only joking. Everybody was just upset with us, but it didn't matter because this is the church. Thankfully, the lights stayed on that day. Praise God. And that has been Sunday school. I'm surprised I've never told that story before.
That is too funny. That is too funny.
Yeah. All right. You know everybody in that. Everybody.
Oh, yeah. I'm just envisioning like the energy in the space. So, yeah. So
that's one way to do it. Man.
That's one way to do it.
And then we did it after the offering. If we'd have did it before, we probably wouldn't have got an offering.
So let me tell you something. that whole "you stepped on my shoe" stuff.
Yeah.
That was how people got stuck up when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
So he was reacted to.
Yeah.
That's how. Because when you will be in like a crowded space and you try to cause a distraction so you can grab someone's bag or pick their pocket, they would do that. You stepped on my shoe. Everybody turn around and that's how people got robbed.
Right.
That's what he was reacted to. Because when you said that, I thought about Malcolm X, because that's the scenario from Malcolm X. Yeah.
And these are the two biggest people in media at that particular moment.
Oh,
so
gosh.
Aisles are moving, chairs are moving.
Oh, gosh. Was a lot of furniture moving.
Yeah, somebody that was I don't want to say, they was kind of, they needed some medication, bolted out the room.
Oh, gosh. That's too funny.
Funny sight. It really was funny.
All right, so let's talk DPA microphones.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. So, Christopher, how did you get in this crazy business?
I came from an even crazier business. I came from the recording studio industry, making records, working in a studio as an engineer and a producer, just 24/7 making records. And that eventually led me into kind of the pro audio side of it. Once I realized that making records was rough. It was fun and it was a living, but it was you're married to it and it's round the clock. So I it took me a few years to realize, 7 years actually. So it wasn't that quick. But I'm not that bright, as you guys will find out. But I realized that, man, I got to try to do something different. And all I knew were how to make records. So microphones, speakers, preamps, all that stuff. And it just eventually got me into the pro audio side of it. And I just had sold some gear, working for a couple of dealers, and then eventually moved into the manufacturer side of things and ended up with DPA about 7 years ago at this point. Yeah.
Wow. So you've been with it 7 years. So what positions did you start out at with DPA?
I was the Eastern, actually, Prentice, when I met you, I was the Eastern regional sales guy.
So when I met you, that's when...
I think so. I think I was the Eastern sales guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when I met you about 7 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. And then transitioned into the VP of sales and marketing and kind of, running it for the country now. So, yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So what did you find most challenging when you really stepped into your position?
Well, it's interesting coming from the music side of things and the creative side. Caleb was talking about creative earlier before we started this all up. You have a different set of criteria and a different way of handling things as a creative that, especially in the recording studio and in the music industry, that may not translate into, business. Let's put it that way, into professional business. So, I had to cut the long hair off, had to buy a suit coat. But, more than that, kind of had to learn to, learn how to talk to people in a way that was more, of course, business appropriate than what I was used to doing in the studio, which definitely was not business appropriate. So
Right.
And then, dealing with lots of different types of customers, lots of different types of people. I mean, we make microphones that kind of run the gamut. So, one day dealing with a pastor like yourself, the next day dealing with a musician, a drummer that has played on rock and roll stages his whole life, or an architect that's designing a new room, or, you kind of have to be able to wear many different kind of hats and be able to talk the talk with people, if you know what I mean. So it's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Every day's different, which is great. It's
that's very true.
It's almost like being in the studio. You did a different project every day. You don't know what to expect. Are you tracking drums today? Are you recording a female singer, a male singer? With this job, it's the same thing. You don't know what's going to happen the next day, which is fun. Yeah.
Right. So what do you find like most challenging when you're working with houses of worship, just in general?
I think for us, it's convincing them that DPA is a premium brand of microphones. We make kind of the upper echelon of microphones, and it's convincing them that the money that they're going to spend is really, it's worth it. It makes sense, because they can buy another microphone, they can buy a headset microphone like I'm wearing for $40 off Amazon or something, and that's not what we do. And then convincing them that there is enough of an upgrade in sound quality that's going to help them with whatever it is, whether it's the pastor and the spoken word, whether it's the guitar player, whether it's the vocalist, whatever. And that's part of the hardest thing to convince. And also it's the audio side of it, video and the big LED screens, and that is fantastic looking, the lights and everything. That's kind of the ooh and the ah. But for us, it's the audio that a lot of times gets forgotten. Oh, let's just put that $40 mic on whatever it is. It's going to be fine. We don't care.
Right.
And then trying to convince them that no, like the message is what people are there for. Like exactly. What you're saying needs to be the most important thing. And the video screens are great, and we love that. But trying to convince them that, hey, we're here too, and it's super important to be able to have an intelligible message, whether it's somebody talking or somebody singing, whatever it might be. That's the biggest battle for us. Yeah.
Chris, it's fun. Bro, can I just?
Good.
It's funny. Funny story. So our pastor currently uses one of your microphones.
Oh, yeah.
The one that has the in-ear, the in-ear piece that he could plug to us. And so how we got him how I was able to sway him. I had to actually, and you're gonna love this, Prentice. I had to show him the NFL, one of the NFL, the broadcasters that do the NFL, they use the mic. And so I had to tell him, I want you to watch this tonight, and I want you to see how great this mic sounds just by how. And he looked and he said, no, we have to get this. And it didn't matter what cost it was. He's like, if they can do it, I want it, because that's the kind of pastor we have. You know what I'm saying? So it was really good that we was able to do that, and that was available.
That's funny. Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes too. It's like seeing that like the NFL, or it's seeing another pastor that somebody might look up to or model themselves after. Hey, what does so and so use? Oh, I got to use what they use.
Right.
Which is, and for us, it's good because we're in some of these, the broadcast facilities or some of these larger churches. And thankfully people see that and go, hey, what's he using? And then people go, oh, it's a DPA. Oh, I got to get one. I don't know what that is, but I got to get my hands on one, so which is great for us. Yeah.
I think it's a perfect segue to talk about headsets, because a lot of times people don't know which one to buy. So what's the best way, especially since you guys have a plethora, you have a pretty large selection of headsets, and they're all excellent. But what are your tools to be able to select the best headset for the person?
Yeah, it's part of its comfort for the pastor, and what they're going to be comfortable wearing. I mean, we have single-sided headsets and double-sided headsets. Some that are made specifically for like kind of theatrical performances, which are really rigid, which sometimes might feel weird to a pastor. A lot of them like the single ear ones that basically don't feel like they're there, but then they're fidgeting with them all the time, trying to get them to stick on and everything, taping them to their face. And if you're taping your headset to your face, there's something wrong with the headset. Trust me, it ain't on right.
Or you lost your ear, one of the two.
Exactly. You gotta go see the doctor.
Pick up your ear somewhere.
we can't help you with that. But for us, I usually tell people the easiest way to kind of figure out what's going to work for you is to get a demo. And we do demos all the time, and we have dealers also that have stuff in demo units that people can try. But we send demos out to churches. I mean, it's 24/7. It's because like I mentioned before, we're a premium product. The microphones are not inexpensive. They're an expensive piece of equipment. You want to make sure it works properly for you, and that it's worth the investment. And sometimes you have to convince the pastor, like, hey, you got to put it on, use it during a service. See if you think it makes sense, if it makes sense for you guys and for the congregation, and you got to have it in your hands to use it. And you don't really want to plunk the money down. You want to try it really first. And we do tons and tons of demos. Yeah.
So if someone wants to do that, what would be the process for a pastor to do that?
Usually the easiest way is to kind of find a local DPA dealer, and we have on our website, we have all the dealers listed. Just find a DPA dealer that's close to you, or somebody that you already buy some audio and video equipment through already. Might be a DPA dealer. We have a lot of them. And then just say, hey, I want to try one of those. I want to try some DPA headset. What would you recommend? And usually the dealer can kind of walk you through it. And then people also reach out to us. They'll find our email off the website. They'll just send us a general email, and one of us calls them and talks through and says, "Hey, let's figure out what you want. You want a directional? Do you want an Omni? Do you want 1 ear, 2 ears? Whatever the in-ear version, like Caleb's pastor has. As I'm fiddling with my in-ears right now, it popped out on me. But yeah, I got the same setup going. Basically, one of our headsets and some in-ears. So. And that's, they either come directly to us or they go through one of the dealers, and we take care of them. Like I said, we do it constantly. Yeah.
What do you think the do's and don'ts of getting a headset? Like, what do you find that, because I get a lot of questions, especially with pastors not understanding how it could really help you, because they have one or two things. Either they are used to using a lavalier, or they're used to using a handheld, and they saw somebody on TV that had a headset, and they don't understand the 3 different types. Yeah. Like, why is a headset more appropriate for what you're doing? If you want your hands free, or you don't want to get feedback on the stage, you do some wedges, and all those things kind of factor in.
Yeah. Exactly. It's and that's part of the question with everybody. I mean, especially depending on the pastor, you get Catholic priests that wear robes. Most of them prefer to have something clipped on their robe. Yeah. More the contemporary pastors, or sometimes they want to be the rock star with the mic in their hand. And I like to talk with my hands free, as you guys probably see. I got my hands are always flying around, so I don't like to hold anything. I prefer a headset. Even before I started working for DPA, I always liked to have a headset on. So it's about you want the pastor to be comfortable, and if he or she is not going to be comfortable with the headset, maybe they had a bad experience previously or whatever, it's hard to force that on them. And then in that case, you're like, all right, what's the second plan? Is it a podium microphone? The regular old gooseneck mic that sticks up off the pulpit? Is it a handheld? Is it a lavalier? And there's no one right answer. It really depends on the sanctuary and the pastor, honestly. Right. I think what we try to do, one of the problems we try to get people away from is thinking that every headset is the same. So we hear a lot, like, our pastor's had a headset, XYZ manufacturer, he hates it, he's never going to use a headset again, it fed back, or it fell off his head, or whatever. And I'm always like, listen, not all the headsets are the same. And then we, of course, try to go into why our headsets are a little bit different, why they sound different, why they work really well with feedback, whereas something else may not, because we kind of pay attention. That's kind of, you get what you pay for with our stuff. That's what the detail we pay attention to. And getting them to overcome that fear of, I had one, it didn't work well, and say, well, try this because you haven't had this one yet. And again, try a demo. You don't have to buy it. Let's just see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, no harm, no foul. We'll get you something that you want, a podium mic or whatever. It's I think the hardest part, to answer your question, Prentice, is trying to convince them that not every headset is created equal. And headset is normally always the best way to go, like you had mentioned, for feedback issues or whatever. But not everybody wants to wear one, and sometimes we're overcoming some past bias with some headsets that didn't quite work so well. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I get it. And especially people who just aren't comfortable, they're used to doing something the same way. Used doing it this one way. So when we talk about microphone, we talk about, say, a handheld microphone. Now, I love the DPA microphones. A lot of singers use them. Yeah. And it's this one thing that's always bugged me, that I never could tell the difference. Because I know that the 2028 is the supercardioid, but I think it's the 4018, the linear supercardioid. Like, what's the difference between a linear supercardioid and a supercardioid, like the 2028?
Well, they're both linear. The main difference, they almost sound identical, really. And that 4018 you mentioned, we call it the de facto. That's because in our opinion, it's the de facto standard. That's kind of why we named it that. It's the top end, and then the 2028 we came out with is kind of the little brother to that. It was made to be almost really sounding the same, but it loses some features. And one of the features it doesn't have is it's not modular. So that high-end version, that de facto 4018, you can take the capsule off, you unscrew it, take it off of the wired handle, and then if you want to say, all right, now I'm going to go wireless. Like maybe you're using it, but you're playing the piano, it's plugged in, it's wired. Next thing you know, he or she's going to walk away from the piano and going to want to, walk around the rest of the concert. You can actually unscrew that thing, put it on a wireless adapter, screw it onto your wireless microphone, your Shure or your Sennheiser or whatever, and away you go. It's the modularity is really what makes it cost what it costs. Inside of that capsule that's inside of there's a studio microphone. It just happens to be in the body of a live sound microphone, which is why it's so expensive. The 2028 was made to be the non-modular version of that. You can't take it apart. I mean, we make a wireless and a wired version. They're just not interchangeable. It's either one or the other. And that's how we can, keep the cost down as well. But they both have the same pattern. They both pick up identically. You could A/B them, and the average person's probably not going to hear any bit of difference, honestly. A seasoned pro would hear the difference, but the average person is going to be like, yeah, they sound the same.
Right. I think the modular aspect is like not only that product, but the microdot products that you have with your line is ingenious. And what was the thought process behind explain microdot to the people?
Yeah, and I wish I had one in front. I'm wired in, so I can't go grab it. I wish I had one in front of me. But basically, we don't make a wireless microphone system to be able to plug like this headset into, or a lavalier. We plug into a Shure or a Electrosonics or a Sennheiser or whatever. So we had to have the ability to make this little teeny connector that you could screw an adapter on it and adapt it to any wireless you want to adapt it to. And the microdot is almost like a little mini BNC connector, basically. If you know what the cable TV connector is, it's a little teeny version of that. And it's kind of silly to say, but it's true. We're a Danish company, and the Danes believe in, kind of that Lego mentality, building blocks, build things as you go. Legos are also Danish, so it's no coincidence. But microdots allow us to kind of build the microphones as we go. So you buy a headset mic for a Shure belt pack. A year later, you get rid of the Shures and you buy the Audio Technicas or the Sennheisers. Then you don't have to get rid of the entire headset. You unscrew the little adapter, buy a Shure, buy another Sennheiser adapter, and plug that in, and away you go. So the modularity part, yeah. And all our microphones, almost all our microphones are modular in some fashion, whether you take the capsule off or you take the adapter off or something. It really is like a giant set of Legos.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that sold us on ours, because what we had a bunch of Shure products, and it was like, well, we don't want to get rid of those. And it's like, okay. And then he was like, okay, well, we have this. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Yep. It's amazing. And I tell you, we've probably sold about 4 or 5 of your microphones to about 4 or 5 pastors. We have a conference that we was doing before COVID, and they were loving it. They were loving it. And they see and then until I'm going to say this, until it said, ka-ching, and then it was like, wow, that's nice.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we wouldn't be doing that, but that's nice. Yeah. Right. And we get that all the time, and it's completely. It's normal. It's.
That's good because it's excellence.
Yeah, and again, for us, I hate to say you get what you pay for, but it's all those little teeny details, the microdots and the modularity, and the stuff that we pay attention to. A lot of stuff that doesn't happen at the capsule, it kind of happens away from the capsule, which sounds weird. It's kind of counterintuitive, but we pay attention to all the sound that could bleed into the capsule, and we try to make that sound as natural as possible, so that, like right now, I got air conditioning running in my house. You might be hearing it. But the thing is, it's going to sound like an air conditioner, not a jet engine, because it's not altering the frequency response of this extraneous noise that's coming in. Or for a pastor, he or she's on the stage, band's going behind them, cymbals, guitar player, whatever. Well, those cymbals are going to sound like cymbals naturally. It's not going to sound like a weird, something odd that the person's going to have to EQ out. Then all of a sudden you're EQing the pastor's mic. Now the pastor doesn't sound like the pastor. Now you're getting feedback. It's this whole domino effect that we pay attention to a lot of this stuff that happens kind of outside of the front of the capsule, so that it makes the engineer's job a lot easier. There's not a whole lot of EQing to do. And that's the hard part to explain to somebody that sees the price tag and goes, oh man, that's great, but I can't afford $800 on a headset, or, you know, $1,000 on a vocal mic. You know, it's tough. And we completely get it. It's just, that's why those demos usually work. And because once they try it, they're like, oh my gosh, okay, I get it. I totally get it. I may not be able to afford it now, but maybe I'll come back to you in 6 months and I can get it, or, you know, whenever the next fundraising drive is, or whatever. And we're okay with that. Yeah.
Right. And I found that the lavaliers, because I know a lot of Broadway uses the lavs. Yeah. Put it up in their hair and all that. So churches who are doing like these dynamic, you know, performances, like drama performances. Yeah. How does the lavaliers factor into like that facet of
yeah, well, I mean, they're where if you go to Broadway, it's a huge part of Broadway, and you guys being in the city, you know what I'm talking about. But you know that's we're one of the main microphones on the actors, and what a lot of times they are used for churches. What we try to tell the churches is that when you're not doing, if you buy 10 DPA lavaliers for your actors for Christmas, right? You got a big Christmas play going on. Well, they don't need to go in a drawer and not see the light of day until Easter or until the next Christmas comes around. Like the lavaliers, we don't make a lavalier for speech. We make it's called a miniature microphone to us. Now people use them for speech because in the States that's kind of what we do. You clip them on our shirt or you put them in the hair. But for us, we have clips for them for instruments. So we're like, put that lavalier on your violin player, strap it to the flute, put it on the drums. We put them in kick drums all the time. I like put it in a guitar. They're great to put underneath the guitar pick, like a bridge, you know, for a guitar. So we always tell people that you're buying more than just a lavalier for a spoken word. You're buying something that we have people that mic up explosions with them for sound effects. I mean, they're for anything. Wow. Because they're not tailored for voice. They're not tailored for anything, honestly. They're flat. So it sometimes it helps to justify the cost as well, that they got some lavs for the play, and then when the play's not happening and the four-piece quartet comes in, you know, they mic up the cello and the violin and the viola or whatever with them, and you're good to go. Yeah.
And they sound amazing on instruments, especially the 4099. I think that thing packs a heck of a part. Takes a lot of SPL.
Yep. And those are made for instruments, but what people don't realize is what's inside of the 4099s are the lavaliers. It's the exact same capsule. All we did was we put a little teeny tube on the front of it to give it directionality, because you want to clip it onto an instrument and make it be directional to that instrument. But if you take the thing apart and use it without the tube, it's a lavalier. It's nothing more than the same lavalier element, which is why those lavs sound so good on instruments. People don't realize until we do it, and then they're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know you could put this on a tuba. And we're like, yeah, why not? Put it on a tuba. The same thing.
Right. They sound amazing. I've mic'd up kits with the 4099s, and man, those things take a beating.
They're lifesavers. Yeah. If anybody's, has been out to see any major concert, well, in the past year and a half, not many of us have, but you know, any major concert now, from like Pitbull to Metallica, Enrique Iglesias is out right now with Ricky Martin. They're all using it on the drums. I mean, it's like, you know, it's kind of the hidden secret for a lot of the engineers. A, they're so small you don't see them, so they are kind of hidden. But B, people like to keep their secrets to themselves, if you know what I mean. Sometimes those engineers don't want people to know what they're doing. And there's tons of microphones on those kits out there that everybody goes to concerts. Tons of the 4099s on the kits, which is great.
Those things sound amazing, man. But I had no idea those were actually the lavs, but this more of a directional facet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing that's in the headsets. Like it's that exact same element. We just repurpose it because, again, it's made flat. It's not made for anything in particular. So we put it on a headset. It's the same thing as a lav. It just happens to have a piece of metal attached to it and stick it right in front of your mouth. But if you were to take that and put it on your shirt, it sounds identical to the lavalier because it is the lavalier, basically. Yeah.
So what's the most popular headset? And what's the newest thing you guys have now?
The newest one I'm wearing. I don't know if you guys can even see it. Probably not. But it's the 66.
Because it's so tiny.
Yeah, it's part of the.
Yeah.
It's hard to show these microphones because they are too tiny. Yeah, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot there when I'm trying to promote it. But it's the 6066 headset, which is our smallest one. It's a 3 millimeter, so it's tiny. It's the smallest one on the market right now. That's the newest one. The most popular is probably still our 4066, which is the old school, super thick metal, really rigid. Once it goes on your head, it doesn't go anywhere. But that's a lot of Broadway still uses that. A lot of the theatrical productions that are wearing headsets use that because it doesn't move. So that's probably our most popular still.
I remember I was at NAB, and I think it's when I first became the trainer at B&H, and they had the wrong microphones. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was bad. It was really, really bad. So, and they didn't have me in the right position. Let's put it like that. They didn't have me in the right spot. So I went over to the head guy and I said, "Hey, listen, you need to get XYZ." So I think I called you.
Yeah.
I called you and I said, "Hey, listen, what do you have that you can loan me for the show?" And you said, "I have this, I have that." I said, "Okay, cool. I just need three mics, I need 3 headsets and XLR connector, and I'm gonna, run them through a snake, and when can we get it?" And we were in between segments, and we were live streaming, and you said, "Okay, and cut commercial." They're like, "Prentice, I flew through the show, and I get there. You're like, "Here you go." No, your friend, I forget his name. What's the guy that you work with? Oh gosh, the other
Jared or Tom? Was it Tom? One of the guys?
I think it was Tom.
Tom.
Tom. He says, he told me to leave these for you. And I was
that's right. Yeah, we had to arrange it ahead of time.
He's in a meeting. He told me to leave. He has these for you. Yeah. And I took them and I ran back and I pulled them all up and it was the wrong mixer. They had like a 3-band mixer. And I'm like, I can't scoop nothing out. Like, what are you guys doing to me? And I'm riding the EQ. But the moment we plugged it in, they were like, wow. And I think
you can tell the difference. Yeah.
Every show, I would show up like, "Hey, Chris."
Well, now I plan ahead. Now I know. Now I'm they're going to need about 5 microphones again. Exactly. Yeah, let's make sure we pack enough. Prentice is going to be calling me. Yeah. So, he's going to be calling me the day of, but he's going to call me, so let's pack enough.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to call you. I think a couple of times I hit you early enough, so I'm like, okay, definitely need 6 of these.
Yeah.
After I get the layout for the show and whatever live streaming though.
Yeah.
But hey,
it's funny. We get a lot of those oh bleep calls, like, "Oh bleep, something, I'm in deep. I need help." and like, "What do you got? Something's not working. We need something to work." And we get a lot of those kind of panicky last minute, especially broadcast type of calls where they got to go on air and something ain't happening. So
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
True. It's who you know. You're right.
Not what you know.
You're right.
So I'm online, and I see this banner, and it says, "DPA has mics on Mars." What the heck?
Oh yeah, there's my Mars shirt. That's me on. That's not me on Mars. That's our DPA guy on Mars. Yeah, saving the universe from bad sound.
That's great. That's great.
We are on board the Mars rover right now. So it took off a year and a half or 2 years ago, whenever it took off, and it landed. And if you guys watched the landing, geez, I don't even know how long ago it was at this point now when it landed, but the whole entry, descent, and landing part of it, those first audio clips we got from Mars, and well, then subsequent audio clips it's the DPA, it's a 4006. So I don't know if you know that capsule, but it's an Omni capsule. It's our kind of high-end like recording capsule. A lot of classical people use it, classical orchestras and stuff like that. But it's mounted to the side of the rover with no protection. There's no windscreens. There's no nothing. It's just it's right off the factory floor. It's like we didn't modify it at all. Mounted on the side of the rover, went through the atmosphere on Mars' surface, still working, still providing audio.
That's crazy.
Which is nuts because
that's amazing.
I mean, to think of all the stuff that I went through to get there, and then it landed, and we got audio, and you can hear the Martian wind, and you hear the tires on the rover rolling on the rocks. It's still boggles my mind that we could make something that works on Mars. It's nuts. Yeah,
that is amazing.
So cool.
That's amazing. Because you come from where you come from, you would never think that you'd be at this place seeing your microphone on Mars.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, we worked with NASA a couple times in the past, but always like recording all their launches. Like they would use one of our microphones.
Okay.
Years ago, before we were DPA, when we were the original company called B&K, they would use the stuff, and then so we've always kind of been in the back of their mind for these launches, but then they said we want to put something on the rover to hear audio back, and they called us and did a bunch of tests, and ended up going with us, and it worked. It's worked out great. Yeah.
Wow.
So and it's factory. Amazing. It's like normal off-the-shelf stuff that anybody can go to a website and buy the capsule and the preamp. And then we make this little thing called the MMA. It's a little mobile audio, digital audio interface, basically, and that's plugged in. That's inside the rover, and that's plugged into their computer. It's like a USB interface. So it takes the 4006 capsule, plugs it into this little USB interface, plugs it into their computer, and that's their audio path. It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of audio paths, it's one thing. I was at a church in Atlanta, and with my brother is like a outreach pastor at this church in Atlanta. I was there visiting, and I walk in, and they had, the DPA choir mics, like 6 of them. And I looked at my brother. I said, "Man, this engineer's having too much fun. He's having too much fun because these mics sound, and I know these mics sound amazing." What do you say to churches that are looking for like really good, these choir mics, and what are the difference, and what different ones to be used for the different sizes of choirs?
Yeah, right. Well, for us, we just have one choir mic basically. We have other ways we can do a choir, hanging microphones and things like that. But for a strictly, a quote unquote choir mic, we have one, and it's called the 4097, and it's like the 4099 that you had mentioned. It's basically the same microphone, but it picks up further away because first you got to have the mics backed off of the choir. Usually what we try to tell the churches is that less can be more. Like what we see a lot with current churches and their choirs, they got tons of microphones up because the mics they aren't picking up the way they should, so then they end up putting multiples up, and then you can get some phasing issues, and then it sounds you end up sounding worse than when you started, and then it's like, why bother? And we can usually, because of, I mentioned this, paying attention to the sound that happens away from the microphone, we call it off-axis response. Because of the off-axis response is so accurate, the way you put the choir mic up, and we have a diagram on the website that shows it, you can actually hit a fairly large choir with a small amount of microphones by using the off-axis off-axis pickup pattern on the mic in a proper way. So the mic kind of mixes itself depending on the layers of the choir and how far they are away. So basically you point the mic at the furthest part, the furthest choir member, and that's going to be on axis, and the closer choir members, of course, they're closer, so you think they're going to be louder. Well, because they're off axis from it, it brings the volume down of the closer people, but it picks the volume up of the further person, and it kind of mixes it, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, so basically, it's cool. You're blending it based on its direction, using its direction as the mixing access. So your off access point will be the closest person to the microphone, which is genius.
Exactly.
Because
it's awesome.
That's incredible.
And it's so basic. There's like no DSP in the microphones. It's kind of like basic physics, but because again, a lot of manufacturers, you don't bother with that because it's not the glamorous part of a microphone, but for us, it's kind of what makes the microphones tick is how they work off axis, honestly. That's a big part of it. And it allows us to do these things with the choir mics when we can maybe cover a big choir with 4 mics and somebody else might have 10 up. And we're like, no, we got you. It's 4 is good. Let's put them up and, bring the faders up, make it flat, bring your faders up. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we can hear them. And they're not all weird sounding. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Then you might hear how bad they sound. Then you might want to bring it down.
That's you got to get another problem.
Different problem.
Completely different issue. Completely different issue. Well, Chris, man, I really, really appreciate your time. I'm pretty sure our fans and our subscribers really got a lot of information from you.
Ton.
What's the best way people can really get the products, and what's the website? It's
DPA Microphones.com. So they can see all the products. We actually have a How to Worship section on there that kind of breaks down, like you talked about, Prentice, headsets or podium mics or different types of stuff. And there's also a really good Mic University section on the website. And I tell this for everybody. We have a lot of actual universities that use it. It's great for like a media team at a church that maybe volunteers, maybe they're not trained, in audio. Mic University covers audio basics all the way up to stuff that makes my head spin, like stuff that I can't figure out. It's way over my head sometimes. But it's great because it's not DPA specific. It's audio specific. So it talks about polar patterns and frequency response. And it's not just, this is the DPA model number. It's like, this is how to read a polar chart, not like this is DPA's polar chart. It's awesome. And I highly recommend anybody to go to it that just needs to learn about whatever they have to learn about with audio.
That's
and
amazing.
it's a separate section on the website. You'll find it if you go to the DPA Microphones website.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Before we get out of here, we do this thing called 30 Seconds and Gone. These are rapid fire questions.
Yep.
I hope you're ready. I have some doozies for
I'm
you.
Scared. Oh.
So here we go. 30 Seconds and Gone. Question number 1. The Eagles will win the NFC East.
Oh. Do I have to tell you what I think or what I feel?
Whatever's on your heart, sir.
My heart is that the Eagles have to win the NFC East. Let's say that.
Okay.
I'm not going to put money on it, though.
Not going to put money on it. Okay.
No.
Question number 2.
You're killing me with these questions. Oh, my God.
Pick your favorite holiday. Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's?
I think it's got to be Christmas for me.
Christmas, okay. Favorite artist as a teenager?
Oh, Prince, without a doubt.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, which is better, pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie?
Ooh, sweet potato pie.
Sweet potato pie,
yeah.
Okay.
Man, now I'm hungry.
Now you're hungry?
Oh, man.
What's your favorite sitcom ever?
I like The Simpsons. Is that considered a sitcom? Probably not. I don't know.
It's animated.
Yeah, it was animated.
It's an animated
sitcom.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Simpsons?
Simpsons?
We'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a rough and tumble question. Only an engineer would do this, and I did this as a kid. So have you ever used a headphone as a microphone?
Yes, and a speaker as a microphone. Just a general. I have a ceiling speaker that I use, a 70-volt ceiling speaker as a microphone. I still use it actually to this day. Yep.
There you have it. 30 seconds and gone. He survived.
Yes, he
survived. 30 seconds and gone.
So, bro, we don't know. The funny thing, we don't know what's gonna happen. He's probably gonna go out on the side, turn on the Prince album, eat some
potato pie.
Talking to the speaker.
Yeah, exactly. You can see how my teenage years were. I'll tell you that much.
That's what's up.
So thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate
man.
you
Thank
jumping
you.
on. We're gonna say like we always say, keep God first in everything you
Every
do.
single thing.
And we see you next time on the Church Sound Podcast.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.